Are you a franchisor, whether early or established, looking for tips and tricks and fresh new ideas on taking your franchise company to the next level? I'm Angela Coté, and I call myself a franchise growth catalyst. I use my experience having grown up in the world of franchising, spending many years on the franchisor side of the franchise relationship, lots of time out in the field supporting franchisees, and then 18 years myself as a multi-unit franchisee. I'm super passionate about creating transformational impact to help franchise companies grow. If you are looking for ideas, we talk about anything from franchisee recruitment, how to find the best franchisees that are going to be the top performers in your brand, to how to support them to really optimize their output. We are more than open to hearing ideas and questions and suggestions. So reach out to me at angela@angelacote.com. Alrighty, let's get started with the Franchise Growth Catalyst podcast. Hey there, Angela Coté of AC Inc. back with another episode of the Franchise Growth Catalyst podcast, the podcast where franchisors can find unconventional yet practical advice on how to improve franchisee profitability, create exponential growth, and of course, make franchising fun. All right, well, we're doing something different again. I've been playing around with a little bit of different things on this podcast lately. And today, instead of having to listen to me ramble away by myself, I brought someone on to ramble with me. So I've got today my COO with me, Stephen Inglefield.
Hello, everybody.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
Ready for anything, right?
It's isn't that like an AC Inc. core value? Just
ready to go. Yeah.
Action equals growth. Let's just do something.
Action, exactly. Action equals growth. And if you were Robert Bruschi, you would say, I was born ready. I came out ready. All right. So
he was born ready.
Yeah, he was. All right. So shout out to him. But yeah, I thought it would be really cool to bring you onto this podcast, Stephen, because you have so many great insights that you are sharing with a lot of people that come to us who are wanting to franchise their business. And not only do I think that people need to hear this, why, or some things to think about if you're thinking of using what I call the F word to grow your business, but also for people to get to know you a little bit. You know, you've been my COO and on my team for over a year now. And for people to understand a little bit of the context behind that and why you have the credibility to be doing what you're doing, I thought that would be a good idea. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So let's start with, before we get into the goody stuff here, the good stuff, let's start with your background. Before you and I met each other, what were you doing?
Moved here to Victoria about 5 years ago and started what became veteran rehab and performance. And so I opened a clinic which exclusively rehabilitates military veterans, RCMP, which for our US listeners is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
We also have listeners, by the way, like in the UK and Australia, apparently. So for them as well, let's not leave them out.
There you go.
This is a big deal, Stephen. You're on a really important podcast. You're going to be famous from this.
Well, make sure everybody gets my email at the end of this.
Okay. Kidding, of course. Anyway.
And first responders. And what we did is we put together multidisciplinary programs for physical rehabilitation, working in a trauma-informed capacity to help military veterans and first responders navigate some of the challenges that have come up for them from their service and help them go back to reclaiming their health. From that, I actually bumped into you at a conference about 2 years ago now, maybe 2.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And you were speaking, and as you do, you were very engaging. And I came up and reached out to you and said, hey, I want to grow. Is franchising the right option for me? And that's really how everything started for me with AC Inc. I came on as a client with yourself. And you actually talked me out of franchising, which is something that we've now we do very regularly with a lot of people reaching out to us about, whether or not they should franchise. And it turns out what they're actually asking is whether or not, like, how do they actually want to grow? And it's really interesting when we get to speak to clients and take them through the process of what growth looks like and how franchising is just one option.
Yeah, I love that. And this is exactly why I thought it would be cool to have you here, because you went through this yourself and went through the process of, okay, if I'm not franchising, but I still want to grow, how can you help me? And, and then we did some work together. We'll talk about that in a minute, but then you joined the team and now you're using what you learned to help others. And, but I want to just circle back for a minute. I just want to really shout out, your business is so cool. And so I hope people are really caught how cool this is, rehabbing military, I said it like you with the British accent. Nice try, right? Military veterans who need anything from the physical, whether it's injury or just getting stronger again, to the psychological, all the components that you do. I think it's just so innovative and cool. And I think it's awesome. And you are growing. And I mean, there's been obviously, COVID sort of affected everybody in different ways, but despite that, you've continued on your plan to do multi-unit expansion. So now everybody will be watching you and expecting big things. But in the meantime, so let's just go back to when you and I were working together before we knew that someday you would be joining the AC team. When we met, I remember, I'll admit, and you've heard me say this, that I was like, okay, so yeah, once we clarified that like franchising didn't maybe make sense, which we can talk about why that is in a little bit as we get into sort of the criteria. But when you were a good business owner, like I've worked with you're welcome. I've worked with everything from people who didn't even know what a profit and loss statement is to people that, really understood their numbers and had a lot of things organized. You were one of those people that knew your numbers and really had things quite organized. So we did some sort of additional, like above and beyond things to really get the growth that you needed. Let's talk a little bit about that. So, what are some of the things that you remember us working on in the early stages that maybe other people in your shoes that are business savvy, but are still trying to grow? What are some of the things that helped you the most in those early stages of our work together?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, one of the important things is always that I believe you should always surround yourself with multiple mentors, multiple coaches, people that have got different perspectives, people that have got different takes on business, people that are at different levels of business above you, because whether or not you take everything from that one person or just a little bit, having their outside perspective gives objectivity that are emotionally tied to your business. And I think that the value that brings to somebody who has who has good business acumen already, they're able to take all of that and analyze those suggestions and recommendations to make what is appropriate for their business. And so when I reached out to you, it wasn't because I was coming at it from a position of my business isn't doing well. How can I do better? We were doing very well. We had everything systemized. I was able to not be working in the business, so I was in this position just in a biz dev position where I was looking at how can I grow? How can I expand? Is it to expand multiple units? Is it fast expansion? Is it just to kind of double down and get and build an even bigger clinic and a bigger center out of my one location? And so when I reached out to you, I didn't really know what it was that I was going to get. I didn't, but that's the whole excitement to it. And my commitment is, your experience and, your career speaks for itself. So I knew there would be value in that. And it turns out that when we really got into it, we understood that, yes, I had a great grasp on my unit economics and my finances and my numbers. We had a lot of parts of the process systemized. Really big thing that jumped out from working with you immediately was the importance of company culture, and not something that I honestly gave enough weight or credit to previous to working with AC Inc. for me, it was like, okay, well, my staff are paid well. They have a great working environment. They are doing something that they're passionate about. So everybody's happy, right? And I remember one thing that's
for now, that might not last, but
exactly, right. And that's that kind of short term limited thinking that, when you're working with employees, when you're working with franchisees, you everything's great in the beginning, but there's always going to be, friction over certain things. There's going to be peaks and troughs in morale, in productivity, and it's how you navigate those moments, and it's how you set up expectation setting and you create buy-in in your company that really lends itself to minimizing the effects of some of those moments. So I remember very vividly, we were in one of our earlier calls. I'm like, yeah, I've got a staff meeting next week. Moving on to the next point. And you're like, oh, let's talk about the staff meeting. What's happening in the staff meeting? And I'm like, oh, well, I've got my agenda and I'm going to talk about all of the different things, give a company overview, and this is where the company's going, and this is a new addition. And you're like, I think you actually audibly snored. Like, okay, cool. What's wrong with that? And you're like, you can put that in an email. You can put it in an email, you can send that to them and they can read that on their own time. Like, you have an opportunity here to get your entire team together and to build excitement and to be able to buy in and team build. And that's what a team meeting's all about. And it was like that. I remember that being really pivotal because that was absolutely the opposite, the flip of what I originally thought. And I believe that very first session, we did an innovation storm. I think we did a core value session actually.
Yeah.
And I believe that first session, and it was getting my core group of employees, the people who were there with me from the beginning. And we did a whole innovation storm or a whole brainstorm about why they love the business and why they love what they do. And that then led on to be the basis of our core values. And what's fantastic about that is that they were the originals. It lives and breathes through them. And so now further on down the line, like even today, this is now 2.5 years later, even today we have a Slack channel and I'm going to say this wrong, by the way, my English accent, I apologize, but we hand out tacos. I say tacos. Is it tacos?
Tacos, yeah.
Tacos. Okay, I say tacos, but I get ripped for that. So we hand out tacos whenever we notice our team members doing something that really meets and exceeds our core values. So all of our staff do call outs for everybody else. It's not just the management or the leadership teams doing it. Like an employee will be like, hey, big shout out to so and so who went above and beyond with this client and met this core value and a bunch of tacos.
Nice.
That's how important that first staff meeting was. Where I was going to go in with an agenda, and we're 2.5 years down the line. And everybody's holding everybody accountable. It raises the morale. It raises the quality and that we're a team sort of atmosphere. And it was things like that throughout that really helped build this company culture, and that leads to productivity. It leads to a lack of absenteeism, like low turnover of staff.
Retention.
Profitability, customer satisfaction, things like that. It filters through the entire business.
Thank you for sharing that. That's, I kind of forgot about that first session where wasn't the first session ever, but that first time we talked about that. Because I do remember when, in all transparency, and I think I've told you this before, but when we first started working together and I'm like, I have to find the gaps here. I don't know what they are. Like I couldn't find them until we started. I'm like, well, tell me about the staff meeting. I'll tell you, oh, wait a minute, here's one. So you're so right though, that the culture, like when you look at successful companies and, especially when you think of like big franchise companies where it's all about people and you look at the ones that are the most successful, 99% of the time, it's because they have a really good culture. So it sounds so fluffy, but it's so true. And getting those core values figured out and you empowered. I love that you embraced it right away too. Like you empowered your team to help create those core values, which led to them really just feeling important and feeling valued and living and breathing them because they were involved, right?
Absolutely. And when I work with clients now, like I'll even use that same word fluffy, and I'll be like, look, I know this seems fluffy, but I thought the same thing. And this is the difference that it makes. And when you realize that to be in business and to have employees and to have contractors and to, whether you're a franchisor with franchisees, if that's where you're at in business, you're not in the health business. You're not in the meat business. You're not in the juice bar business. You're not in any of those businesses. You're in the relationship business. That's what it is. And it's relationships with your staff, with your peers, with your partners, with your vendors, with your clients. It's just relationships and relationships. And how do you nurture all of those relationships? And just as is important in a friendship or a romantic relationship, it's about communication. It's about listening. It's about showing up. It's about making things fun and enjoyable. And when you kind of enter into that mindset, thinking about clients, thinking about colleagues, thinking about staff, all of a sudden it changes your entire approach. And you're putting them first and thinking about how can I make this a better environment for them, and in turn they're going to then buy in, be incentivized, and give you so much more back in return.
This is so important for people to hear, especially if people might be listening going, okay, when are you going to tell me how to franchise or whether I should franchise? Well, you shouldn't if you don't have this part figured out. I guarantee it. And for what it's worth, there's a podcast that I did, I don't know, a few weeks ago on how to determine core values. And I talked about how you can bring your team together. So if anybody's listening and wants to know how to actually determine those core values, because that's actually what I see as one of the biggest roadblocks, is that they're like, okay, I believe that it's important, but I don't really know how to get there. So there's some actionable tips there, but super important, especially if you're trying to grow, whether that's franchising or not. You'll hit roadblocks if it's all about the numbers and just, following rules and things. Let's move over to systems a little bit. We talk so much in franchise or just business growth in general about systems. And it hit me one day that I'm like, systems means different things to different people. When people hear that, they might think that means, I always use it's easy example of McDonald's or burger joint, franchise, how to make the burger. You put this, you do this, the oven temperature, this or whatever, right? But we're talking about so much more than that when we talk about systems. And when you and I first started working together, I remember thinking you had a lot of the systems in place that you needed, but I think the big thing was they needed to be written down. But just backing up a minute, like when you think of systems, how would you tell people what we're talking about here?
When I think
some examples whatever you want to say.
Think about all the things that you can do to get out of being in the business so that you can work on the business. So effectively, when I work with
or go take a vacation.
Or go take a vacation.
Okay,
absolutely.
kick it.
Or have 10 different businesses, and they should all just be running without you, effectively. When I work with a business that's looking to expand, especially if they want to do it through multi-unit growth, one of the first things I say to them is, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be running your business. I need to know how. Like, I'm going to walk through the doors, and I just need to be able to run your business. And that means straight away, if your business is dependent on you, we've got a problem. It needs to be system dependent. You cannot be that special source, because if you are, then multi-unit expansion is going to be a real struggle. One of the things that I like to do is, systems can sound, it kind of has a boring connotation with it. People's like, oh my God, systems. But what I'm looking at is, okay, let's start with the biggest bang for your buck things that we can implement. So for instance, because we can talk about systemizing how to make the
clean
burger or whatever.
Or clean a toilet.
And clean the toilet, or, how to close down at the end of the day and all those different things. But one of the big things straight away is kind of marketing in your sales process. If we want to keep the lights on, we need to drive sales. So how can we systemize driving sales? So I'll start right at the very beginning and I'll say, okay, how are leads coming into your system? And that might be social media ads and clicking on those. It might be filling in web forms. It might be meeting people at trade shows. It could be walkthrough traffic. It could be a lot of different ways that people can enter into your system. Well, we need to systemize all of the different ways that people enter into that sales funnel. At that point, we need to look at, and so that could be social media ads. Okay, what's the system behind that? Well, we're going to run this ad campaign with this ad spend. We're going to try these different ad sets. This is all going to go out. And then we, every month we review our ROI. We look at how we can optimize. That is a system for how we bring somebody into the sales funnel. Once they come into the sales funnel, what happens? Do you have a CRM, or is it literally just your email inbox is just getting absolutely blown up by leads coming in, and it's just on you to remember to respond to people and where everybody is in the sales process? That's going to have a ceiling very, very quick. So whether or not your process is, I have an Excel spreadsheet and I put people into there and then I color code it all. And then every Monday I look at the Excel spreadsheet and I contact everybody who's blue. And then after that, I contact everybody who's yellow on Tuesdays. That is a system. Again, not great for multi-unit expansion, but depending on where you are with your business, we need to start getting a system. A CRM is a great way of doing that, because what we can then look at is, how do we nurture those leads? People enter into those leads. Can we create automation features where then they immediately get contacted back? Within 3 days, we try to set them up with a call. We try to say, I noticed that you didn't take that next step. Can we get feedback as to why? And whether or not they engage in that process will set off whether or not we're going to contact them, or whether or not we go a different way of how we want to engage with them. This goes all the way through to the sales process. Am I selling by just having a cart on my e-commerce store? Am I selling one-on-one? And I have to be able to objection handle. I need to be able to present in the right way. And it could be that you're in a service-based industry and you say, okay, what you want to do is break down the sales process into 3 calls. The first call is identification of your needs. The second call is kind of pitching to them what you think that they need, and then giving them some time. And the third call is saying, okay, are we doing this? That could be a process. Maybe for you, that's not the right way. And maybe it should all be done on one call. Like these are things, but creating that system and figuring out which one of these is the most efficient way for your business means that tomorrow when I come in, I know, okay, well, for me to make this close, this person's come in, I've got to put them into the CRM, this, and this is going to happen. They set up this call, they pitch them here, and they follow up 3 days later, and my chance of closing that is going to be higher than all of the other ways. And so this is what we look at doing, and that's just one example through marketing and sales processes. How do we systemize every step of into the sales funnel to close to customer life cycle after that? These are the things that need to be figured out. Primarily, because especially if you're going to open a second location, what's the first thing that you need? You need to have customers. You need to make sales to warrant the expense that you've just spent in opening that. And if you want to go down the franchise route, you're going to have franchisees that you're eventually going to say, this is the way that you get sales. Mm-hmm. Follow this, do this. So when I'm thinking systems, I'm thinking about having a standardized approach to effectively every part of your business.
Mm-hmm. That's good stuff there. So that was some really good, I don't know if people that are listening are either, depending on the stage they're at, freaking out because they realize how much they don't have systemized, or maybe some people are giving themselves a pat on the back. Let's move into, so somebody comes to you and, you've done this work with them because they want to, I'll say this, what we typically will do, or I know you'll do is say, like, I know that you're coming to me saying you want to franchise, but what I'm really hearing you say is you want to grow. And you came to me saying, I don't even know if I want to franchise, which was cool. Like I prefer when people understand that it might or might not be a good idea. And so when you came, it was like, okay, there's a few questions I need to ask you to help you figure this out. What are some of the questions, one or two or whatever of your questions that you like to ask people that come in looking to actually use the franchise model?
A lot of the clients that I see, a lot of people jump on a call with me because that's exactly the question. Like, I've got a good business. I've got a good concept. We had
making money.
We had a great year. What do I do next? I want to grow. And so very simply, I'll say, that's fantastic. What does growth look like to you? Like where do you see yourself in 1, 5, 10 years? Like, what do you actually want out of this? If their response to me is, I want to make a lot of money. I want better quality of life. I don't want employees. I want to be able to play golf regularly and take lots of vacations. Then they're pretty big red flags that franchising is not the right option for them. It's amazing on how often on those first calls, having those conversations, just being like, letting people understand this is what franchising is going to look like. And, there's a lot of upfront investment. You're going to work harder than you ever did as a business owner. If you're in this for 10 years or at least a long-term focus, then we're going to be struggling for sure. And it could be a beautiful experience and a great journey, and it can be so fulfilling, especially if you're saying, I really want to mentor and I want to support and I want to help make an impact. These are things that we want to hear immediately when talking to somebody if they're asking whether or not they should franchise. If I don't hear straight away, I want to make an impact. I want to be in this for the long term. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and go through this. Then, we've really got to dig a little deeper and help explain. This is how you talked me out of this, is because I came in and I wasn't thinking about really expanding through, I wanted to expand into multi-unit growth, but I wasn't thinking about like 30, 50, 100 units, that wasn't really where I wanted to go with this. And
at that point anyway, and some people come in and they know they just want to do a few more right now and they're still not even sure. So if that's the case, then we're probably not, we won't take you down that path.
A mentor of mine previous to this, he said to me one day, he said, would you rather have 10 units and all of the stress and all of the things involved with that, and your capital spread out across all of those, making good money, or would you rather have 2 or 3 units that's very easily manageable, making great money? And that really stuck with me, whether or not that's applicable to me or not. Having that mindset, because it's very much a conversation of there's no right or wrong answer. If you want to be rich as possible tomorrow, that's great. Good for you. There's no judgment. That's a great goal to have. If you're here to help as many people as you can in your lifetime, that's also a great goal. And there's lots of ways that both of those things can happen at the same time. So it really is on an individual basis, having that conversation with the business owners about what growth looks like to them, that really gets us starting to look at, okay, well, if you've said the right things there, then we can look at, the systems. Are you system dependent? We can look at the unit economics. We can say, looking at your revenue, your profit, your margins. Once we factor in all of the franchise and the royalty and all of the other fees, does this still make sense? Is this still I had a call with a company recently, and they've got a lot of great things going for them. They answered all the right questions. They really want a franchise. But right now, when we do some preliminary evaluation on their unit economics, it wouldn't be that attractive of a financial opportunity for a potential Z, with how much the build out cost is, the upfront investment. Like they'll get their money back after say like 4 or 5 years. And even then, and so looking at that, so then in that point, okay, this is franchisable, but we need to do some work right now on unit economics. We need to get the revenue up. We need to get the profitability up. How can we make this business? How can we optimize this business so that we can take that next step and get you some franchise like sales?
That is such good stuff. And that's what you're so good at is helping people with that step of, it's not about whether you franchise right now. It's about how let's just get you growing, and let's do these things that we talked about earlier in the call to get you to a point where you're not working so much in your business, so that you can decide what it is the next thing you're going to do. Are you going to open in a new market? If you're going to do that, I've seen you help people with that without using the franchise model, but rather just using a manager and some kind of bonus structure that incentivizes that manager, so that it's kind of like having a franchisee and you set it up that way. So that's really cool. Yeah. And I'm so happy to have you on the team doing this, because there's so many people that need this. So that's really cool. And I mean, I think we'll save the rest of the things that I want to talk about for another day. We'll leave people wanting more, but because the one other area that would be fun to go is also just, a lot of people in franchising will look at your numbers and determine whether it's a franchisable business. And we're like, I guess we're already alluding to a lot of this, that there's more to it than just the numbers. It's the DNA of the person, whether they have the right DNA to be a franchisor, including what they want their lifestyle to look like and all these things. So I'm really excited that we have this solution for people, that it doesn't mean you can't grow. It doesn't mean, you're not franchisable. Goodbye.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And you and I can, we can talk for hours and hours and hours about all of this. For me, one of the things I love most about, being able to work, with you and at AC Inc. is just the crazy variety of different businesses that we get to work with, like things that we wouldn't even have thought of, or never heard of, coming out. And it's so much fun to meet people, hear their story, hear their founder story, find out what their growth goals are, and then like lift the hood and look at their business and say, okay, well, yes, you've got a fantastic differentiator. This is a fantastic thing. This is how we're going to get you to that growth, whatever that looks like. So, I enjoy turning up to work every day and being able to meet new people, new businesses, and be able to give them advice and talk to them about how they can grow. And if there's people out there looking looking into growth, into franchising, and they're not 100% sure, I'd love just to jump on a call with them and find it just to hear more about their business and get a good idea of where they're at.
Awesome. And what do you prefer is the best way for them to reach out to you? Should they go through our website and book a call with you there, or?
Yeah, absolutely. They can go to angelacoté.com and they can contact me directly through the site. There's booking links there. Alternatively, you can send me reach out, send me an email, Stephen@angelacoté.com. Stephen with a V at angelacoté.com. Send me an email. We'll jump on a call. I'd love to hear from you guys.
Awesome. Well, I am super excited about this because I have so much confidence in you've been able to work with a lot of different people and make a lot of assessments with people and speak with a lot of franchise attorneys and understand, what is the difference between franchising, licensing, corporate, all that stuff. So you're just becoming just a wealth of knowledge. Is that the right expression?
Yeah, we can go with that.
We'll go with that. Okay. Well, I won't make, what's that?
A plethora.
A plethora. There you go. All right. Well, I won't make you say it, but I'm going to say it. Everybody, go be awesome.